Welcome. My name's Tom Carr, and this is the Property Web. So this podcast is really here to introduce you to experts who I work with and who I think can help your property journey. Lots of ways we can go with it, but today I'm really excited to be joined by someone who's an accountant and who's got a really interesting take on the way her business is structured. And she's been on a journey, and we're going to just explore that a little bit more. And so today, welcome Alesha, who is an accountant here in Sydney. Really, thank you for coming on. And your company is TaxApp, and we're going to get lots into that. So Alesha, welcome.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Yeah. Okay. So, I can't remember exactly how we met, but one of the things that really struck me about you when we did start talking was the scale of what you've already done and what you've achieved. But let's not go straight into that because there is a tech story to tell there. But, like everything, it's all about the person. And so I'd just love to touch on you and some of your how you got here stories for the moment. So I'm from overseas, and I always like to think of, how do people get here? So what was your journey to this point? Like what was the trajectory that you've been on?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was born in Pakistan, and then my family moved around quite a bit, actually. So from Pakistan, we went to the UK as a family, and I lived in Glasgow, Scotland for a little while. And then from there, we moved to Leicester in England. And after that, moved to Australia, a tiny, tiny town called Port Augusta. So that was like a very big change from living in Leicester, England, like quite a sizable city, to a tiny home, like tiny town in Port Augusta. I still remember as my dad was driving the car, he was like, "So are you guys excited? This is the town we're going to be living in." And I think me and my brother were like, this is the town that we're living in. But we got used to it. So that was a lot of fun. I've made some lifelong friends there. And then
South Australia, for anyone who doesn't know where Port Augusta is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. South Australia.
I have been there. It's, a bit of a surprise.
And then from there, I moved to Adelaide for uni, and I stayed in Adelaide for maybe like 10 years or so before moving to Sydney in 2022.
So you really have travelled. And the UK, obviously, fond memories of that for me, and maybe probably did spend a bit more time than you. But so that you've been in Australia quite a while now. This probably feels more like home.
Yeah, I think I had my teenage years here. I have made like long-term friends here, and I went to uni here, except for like the fact that I went on exchange back to the UK because I missed it a lot. So I thought I'll go like re-explore it as an
back
adult.
To Glasgow? No,
I went to Birmingham.
Okay.
Because you apply, and then whoever your university is connected with, that's the university you get accepted into. So the universities need to have partnerships. So I went there and I lived there for, I think, 6 or 8 months. I did a semester there. That was quite cool. And then, came back. But no, I think Australia is definitely home because I've spent most of my adult life here.
Cool. And accounting is the other thing. What's the connection there? That's an obvious choice for people just sort of wanting to get into the professions. But was there any spark that led you down the accounting path, or?
I think so I studied accounting and law at uni. And then whilst I was studying in uni, I was doing some internships as well. So I was working as a law clerk for a few years, and I think I had a very interesting case. And that helped me realize that I don't want to pursue law.
Okay. Process of elimination.
Yes, exactly. And then I decided to move towards accounting. So, and I've done lots of different, I've explored lots of different areas of accounting, and small businesses and, individuals are my favorite.
Yeah, so you've been on a bit of a corporate journey as well, haven't you? You've sort of been around the big firms, and maybe talk a little bit about that sort of span in your life and maybe why you're not there now?
Yeah, for sure. So I started off as a graduate in BDO, and I got promoted within 6 months to a senior accountant within BDO. So that's almost like unheard of in a mid-tier firm because they take quite a while to progress people there. So I moved fairly quickly, and then I think I was a few months into my tenure as a senior consultant / senior accountant that I got poached by Deloitte. So then I moved to Deloitte, and this was all in Adelaide. And I moved to Deloitte as a senior consultant, then moved forward as a manager in Deloitte. And then I got poached by Macquarie. So that was pretty cool. This was during COVID, and I ended up moving to Sydney with my job at Macquarie.
Sought after.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also made my fiance move with me to Sydney because he was in Adelaide at the time. So he moved to Sydney. And then while both of us were in Sydney planning our wedding, we decided to launch my business TaxApp, or our business TaxApp. And then I ended up quitting Macquarie, and now I'm doing accounting.
And this is where I'm sort of itching to move the conversation, because I spent a number of years in my corporate sort of career working on an app. So the CommBank app, and I wasn't the only one on that, but there was many hundreds, thousands of us. But that's kind of, I've obviously got that digital background and working on understanding customer behavior and just building new features. And I think it's probably something that everyone's thought of once in their life. If I created an app, what would it be? But you actually sort of took that a little further, and you actually went and built your own app. I mean, I think this is an incredible thing to have done, and it's being used by people right now. It's on the App Store. Before this conversation, I went on just to check it out, and it's right up there. You put in the word tax, it's 1, 2 on the list.
Yeah.
Like even ahead of some of the government apps. So let's unpack that a little bit. What was the motivation initially to start your own app or create?
Well, at the time, we were looking at accounting firms and thinking about how we can provide a digital first experience whilst also keeping it very personal. And we were looking around, and we found a niche in the market, or a gap in the market, I should say, that there weren't a lot of accounting firms that were digital first. They were either like really old school, or they were just digital apps. They weren't providing the accountant service or the touch and feel that you can get with an accountant, the advice that you can get with an accountant. And that was the market that we wanted to tap into, and which is why it's been super successful, because we are a digital first experience for PAYG and micro businesses. And with that, we also provide personalized experiences where when someone puts in their details, we're not spending time sitting with them discussing the minutiae, but like really focusing in on where we can add value.
So I presume you get a nice little picture of people up front. You're not avoiding those sort of back and forth questions about the finances. That sort of comes together as a picture in the app for you. So those early conversations are more productive, I presume. Yeah,
and they're a lot more meaningful. And within the app, there are also prompts, which other apps don't provide. Like, for example, work from home expenses, or what kind of expenses you can claim if, for example, you're working in the sun, things like sunglasses. So there are lots of different ideas or thoughts that people can get when they're going through the app. They can understand what items we can claim. And it's almost like it's a handheld process, but in a digital methodology.
I think this is, so I got to admit, I don't actually do the tax returns. That's my wife has typically done that. So I don't have tons of experience in this space, but part of the reason for not doing it is that it's complicated. And also there are government systems which you can use to help with this, but my sense is that people do want to glaze over, and there's just, it's not a topic or not an area that people really want to spend time because it's confusing. So I guess this is why you've gone down the track you have to try and simplify and add that extra value. But take us a step back a step. How do you even go and create this app? Like, you've got the vision, I guess. You want to help people with their finances, but what's the next step for you to actually get this out? Like, where do you start? Do you come from a technical background? Do you code?
No. So I lean in my husband's expertise quite a bit, and also my business partner's expertise quite a bit. So he does a lot of the technical, he manages all the technical side of things, and he's very good with that. Where I support the process is more so the user experience, the kind of layout that we want, what kind of features we should have, and exploring the market or like exploring the data behind the app. So, for example, at which touch points we're getting drop off. So what do we need to fix in that? So I guess that analytical piece is where I support the process in the app.
Yeah. And
the technical side, building and updates and all of that is really led by Farhad.
It's so cool. And it just, for me personally, because this is all the stuff I used to do in the previous world, but I think the best way for people to kind of get their heads around it is just to go download it and, and check it out. Not that one, it's a little plug. TaxApp. So what's the time frame on this? So you created, when did this get created and out into the market?
So this was out in the market around October, November 2022. Mm-hmm. And then we got married in December 2022. Whilst we were on our honeymoon, we really had the time to step back and think about it a lot more. And then from there on, we just kept iterating on the app. And where it is today is a long way from the day that it first started, because we really wanted to focus on the minimum viable product idea in technology. So let's go to the market, get their view, and then keep updating, which is why every year we keep doing research and development into the app and updating it based on what the market is looking for.
And have you got a sense for what people value the most from something like this? Because there's going to be features that just didn't get traction or don't get used as much, but some that really do. Do you have that sense?
It's funny that work from home feature is the most utilized feature on our app.
Okay, what's that?
It is, you just record your work from home hours. And so people love using that as their logbook for work from home hours. And that's
what can you do with that? So that's a tax benefit?
So that's a deduction that you can have. So that's from an individual perspective. And for micro businesses, people who are on their ABNs or wanting to really start their own business, they're loving the invoice creation feature. So they don't have to have their own software and things like that. They're just utilizing the bookkeeping feature in our app because they're too small to have to pay Xero or QuickBooks fees, just because they were dabbling in and understanding it. So it provides profit and loss. So for micro businesses, those invoice and expenses features are really popular. And then for individuals or for personal taxes, work from home is really, really popular.
Yeah, okay, that's really cool. And so anyone can download it, free to download. I presume there's additional avenues that you can then go down to get additional support if that's what you want. How are you structuring it?
Yeah, so primarily it is people who end up downloading it, they start utilizing it quite a bit, and then they end up converting. So because of the amount of touch points that you have with the consumer or the client or potential client, over time they end up converting.
And what does that mean? So they've gone through it, they like what they see, they want to get in touch. What does that then look like?
So sometimes they'll lodge the tax return through the app. Mm-hmm. Other times they'll book an appointment if they're micro businesses, and then they'll want to lodge their ABN return or start their company through our firm. So we've got TaxApp Australia, which is the app, and TaxApp Accountants, which is the firm. So then micro businesses, when they're growing a bit more, we move them across to the firm side of things.
Yeah, okay, got it. So maybe that's a good point, just to sort of talk about an example or someone that you can think of who's perhaps gone through that journey that you've talked about. They've downloaded the app, they like what they see, they come through to you, and that looks like a good client relationship, someone that's going to need some extra support. Can you think of any that where there'll be lots, but pick an example of someone who's got that way?
Yeah, for sure. So, for example, there's a psychologist that I can think of, and she had her full-time job and also was starting off her private practice. Mm. And that's where she started utilizing her, at TaxApp, to start working through the invoices and her personal consulting business. She started putting that through the app. As her consulting business grew further, she ended up moving into the firm, and now she's got her own consulting practice. She no longer has her job at the hospital, and the app supported her in a time where she was dabbling her feet into her new business, or doubling down on her skills.
Yeah, okay, so you've got access to her. She's now across what you do and the extra support you can offer. Maybe tap into that a little bit. What are some of the additional support mechanisms or conversations you have with people like that or others once they're going up the curve?
Yeah, for sure. So we can, so from an ABN perspective, we were able to, streamline her accounting. We were able to get her a Xero subscription. So now she utilizes Xero software. She's now moved on to purchase some property as well. So she keeps her data of the property in the app, because you can have multiple properties in the app. Like, you can record details of property in the app as well. So she still uses the app for her property information to upload. Like, if she's spent some money on her property, she will upload expenses there. And then her business, which is still in an ABN structure, but a much bigger business than it was before, she utilizes Xero software, and we lodge her BAS on a quarterly basis. We sit with her, meet with her on a quarterly basis, and chat through how her business is doing and where she wants to go next.
Wow, that's great. I mean, she must be a kind of a lifelong customer now. You've sort of obviously helped her through a few different phases, and she's getting that extra support now as well.
Yeah, I think it just being able to tailor your support and advice for different life cycles of a client's journey is what we are focusing on in our firm's methodology, and it's really resonating with the market.
Yeah, I've not seen anything quite like. I'm sure there are other competitors. You probably know them more than me, but the fact that you can kind of have your whole financial history and sort of position in there, and constantly update it, like it's really helpful. I can't think of an example that I've got in my life where I use something like that. But the banking apps they only go so far. Like, there are cash flow trackers and statements and that sort of thing, but they're not having that interaction so much.
No. So, for example, even with the banking apps, you can't really add a property, or you can't say it like, my property in New South Wales is giving me this much money, and these are the expenses that I'm having. And then another property in Brisbane, for example, is bringing in this much money, and I am spending X amount of money on that property. So we also have like shares and capital gains, like a really rough capital gains calculator, just so if someone's thinking of selling their share portfolio, they can do like really some quick calculation and go, okay, like this is how much tax I'll end up paying on the amount of money. Obviously, that's not tax advice, because you're utilizing a tool online, but it gives people a good idea or a good guess, an approximate to work off of. And then once they do decide to sell, then they can, we can do proper calculations for them.
And I'm sure you're making it quite obvious, the journey that people can go through from the app to the more personalized service. And so, I mean, touching on property, you mentioned it briefly, but we should sort of think about what I think it's really important for people, whether they're in a business or not in a business, when property is perhaps on their mind, they might come to a broker, they might come to a property agent, but also an accountant is in the mix for them. And like, what are some of the things that people need to be thinking about, perhaps before they buy property, or maybe they've already bought something? Are there strategies or things that people can do to get prepared?
Yeah, definitely. I think some of the things that people can really think about is structuring of the property. Mm-hmm. So you can obviously buy property in your personal name, and that's a really good way of purchasing property. And you can also purchase property in a trust structure, and that's also a really good way of purchasing property where you have got more control over distributing income to, if you're in a partnership, or if you're in a relationship or long-term relationship, it's really helpful to be able to distribute income over between two people.
And across family members and so on.
Across family members, exactly.
And is that something that you're starting to see? You do, in the market, trusts are being, I wouldn't say promoted, but talked about a bit more. Is that something you get questions about?
Yes, most definitely. And I think usually once people have had a couple of properties, or they've been on the property journey for a little while, they can, that's when they've accumulated a bit of wealth to make trusts more viable.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when we start going down the property rabbit hole, there's this, like, you can never end. So I think we'll tie a loop on it. But I'd be interested to hear where you're sort of heading next, because you've got this incredible base with the TaxApp, and there's probably 100 things on your mind about where you go next. But what is the focus for you over the next sort of 6 months to a year? Is it in a good place? Have you got it where you want it, or are you going elsewhere?
So the app side of things is in a pretty good place. I think we did a really good update at the start of the year, and then we have done some minor updates recently. And probably next calendar year, we'll relook at the data and think through if we need to make any further updates with the app. Otherwise, for this quarter, from October to December, are really focused in on the firm side of things, because most of the personal individual taxes have either been lodged or are in progress. Yeah.
And so that's where you you're thinking more about that personalised support for businesses or individuals, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And
I think that's probably when you think of an accountant, that's probably what's the bread and butter, is that sort of personal advice.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a hand in hand with the way you've structured things. That's awesome. Okay, and so you're a local now. You're living in Lane Cove, office in Lane Cove. So anything that you're doing in and around this area? Why do you like this area?
So we've got two offices actually. Okay. One is in Five Dock and one is in Lane Cove. I really like the vibe of Lane Cove, North Shore. It's wonderful. And we started off the office in Lane Cove in July this year. So entrenching ourselves in the North Shore, we're already getting really good traction at the moment. So yeah, I love the leafy suburbs. As I was driving here through the windy roads, I was thinking about the Adelaide Hills, which is
really,
yeah.
I haven't heard that one before.
Because I spent a lot of time in Adelaide, right? Yeah. So I was like, oh, this is beautiful greenery. So I think greenery. I really like the greenery.
No, it's good. I mean, North Shore's. Yeah, I'm up here, so I love it too. And no, it's good to. It's not quite the London hustle and bustle, but it's got that sort of relaxed vibe, and I totally agree with that. And Lenko's changed massively recently. Listen, it's been great to have you on. I think, how we can, obviously TaxApp is the way to get hold of you initially, but we'll put some notes in there as well about your contact and like how people best reach out to you. Is there a particular preferred method if someone wants to speak with you? Like, do you have appointments, or how do you take on that initial engagement?
Yeah, for sure. So I think just check out our website, taxapp.com.au, and we've got free or complimentary first consultations. And happy to have an appointment. And you can reach out via phone, email, or the contact us page. Lots of different methods.
Socials. Awesome, yeah.
On through the website, yeah.
Great, brilliant to have you on. And to everyone listening, thank you very much. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.